Hi everyone, today we are going to learn about repetitions in C language. Here we have count controlled repetition. Here, number of repetitions is known before the loop begins execution. A control variable is used to count the number of repetitions. The control variable is incremented usually by 1 each time the group of instructions is performed. The repetition terminates when the count exceeds number of repetitions. Here, we know the number of repetitions before loop begins execution. Now let's see what counter control repetition requires. The name of a control variable, the initial value of the control variable, the increment or decrement by which the control variable is modified each time through the loop, the condition that tests for the final value of the control variable. Here we have an example of while statement. Now let's go through this code. Here the count is initialized as 1. Then we have the while condition. Inside the parenthesis we have the condition. That means here count should be less than or equals to 10. Then the statement, then while comes to an end. Now here count is set to 1. Then the while statement, we check whether count is less than or equals to 10. Yes, 1 is less than 10. So we go inside the loop. Then we have to print the number. Print the counter. Then we have to increment the counter by 1. Then counter becomes 2. Then we again go and check whether 2 is less than or equals to 10. 2 is less than 10. So again we go inside the while statement. Then we print the number 2. Then increase the number 2. Like that we go through this loop until counter becomes equals to 10. Then we have the output of numbers from 1 to 10. You can try out this code and see the output. Now let's see the general format of a while statement. Here we have while, then inside the brackets we have the condition. Then we have the statement. The while statement body may contain single or a compound statement. Now we have another example of while statement. Here we calculate the average of a class. In this code, there are some variables: count, grade, total, average. In the while statement, we check whether count is less than or equals to 10. Here count is 1, so we can go inside this loop. Then we have to print enter the grade. Here we take the grade from the user. After that, we add the grade entered by the user to the total. Here we have set the total to 0. Assume that the user entered 98 as the grade and we have here 0 as the total. Then 0 plus 98. Now this total is updated to 98. Then we increase the counter by 1. Then again we go up and now the count is 2. We check whether the count is less than or equals to 10. Yes. Then we can print enter the grade. Now user enters a value. Now we have to add that value to our total. Our total was 98. Now we add that 98 and the grade entered by the user and update the total. Now we can increase the counter again and run this loop. Likewise, our code runs 10 times. Then you can try this code and see whether you get the required output. Now let's pay our attention to sentinel controlled repetition. When no indication is given of how many times the loop should execute, a sentinel value is used to terminate the loop. As example, here we have type -1 to terminate entering of marks. A loop should have a statement to obtain data each time the loop is performed. Sentinel value must chosen as that it cannot be confused with an acceptable input value. Here, in sentinel controlled repetition, we don't know how many times the loop should be executed. We know only a condition. As an example, if you type -1, then the loop terminates. Here we have an example to calculate the average of a class. Here we have variables grade, total, counter, average. Then here, as this is a sentinel repetition, here we check whether the grade entered by the user is not equals to -1. If it is equals to -1, then loop comes to the end. If it is not equals to -1 only, the loop begins to function. Here, assume first the user enters 75 as the first grade. Then we check whether grade is not equals to -1. As 75 is not equals to -1, we go inside this while loop. Then total equals to total plus grade. Here we have initialized total to 0. That means we have to add 0 to 75 because user entered 75. Then total can be updated to 75. Then we have to increase the counter. Likewise, we can run this program until user enters -1 as the grade. That is the difference between those two repetitions. That means in counter control repetition, you know how many times the loop runs. But in sentinel control repetition, you know only one condition. That means like here, if the user enters -1, the program comes to end. Now let's pay our attention to counter control repetition with for statement. Here we have a variable counter, data type is int. Now we have for. Inside the brackets we set counter equals 1, then check whether count is less than or equals to 10. As 1 is less than 10, we can print 1. Then we increase the counter and check whether it is less than or equals to 10 and print that number. Likewise, until counter becomes equals to 10, we can run this code. This is the basic structure of for statement. First we can initialize, then the condition, then the increment or decrement. Then let's go to do while repetition statement. Here, loop continuation condition is checked after the loop body is performed. Therefore, the loop body will be executed at least once. Here we check the condition after we run our code once inside this do while statement. We have an example on that one. Here we have the variable counter initialized to 1. Then we have do while statement. Here we have do, then inside the brackets we have printf the number, that means the counter. As count is 1, we print 1. Then we go and check the condition. Here we have to increase the counter until it becomes equals to 10. When we increase 1, that is 2. 2 is less than 10. So we can go inside this do while and print the number. Break statement. The break statement, when executed in a while for do while statement, causes immediate exit from that statement. Program execution continues with the next statement. Common uses of the break statement are to escape early from a loop. Now let's see how we can use break statement. Here we have the variable x that is initialized to 1. While x less than or equals to 10, as x equals to 1, we can go inside this while loop. Then here we have if x equals to 5, break. That means like this. First x equals to 1. As 1 is not equals to 5, we can print the x, that means 1. Then we can increase the x, then that is 2. We check whether 2 is less than or equals to 10, yes. Then we check whether 2 is equals to 5, no. Then we can print number 2. Likewise, we can increase this x until x equals to 5. Assume that now the x equals to 5 while x is less than or equals to 10. We can go inside this loop. We check whether x equals to 5. Yes, now we can break this one. So only the outputs will be 1, 2, 3, 4. As we have used a break statement here. That is the function of break statement. Continue statement. The continue statement, when executed in a while, for, and do while statement, skips the remaining statements in the body of that control statement and perform the next iteration of the loop. In a while and do while, loop continuation test is evaluated immediately after the continue statement is executed. In the for statement, the increment expression is executed. Here we have an example. Variable x is initialized to 1, while 1 is less than or equals to 10. We check whether x is equals to 5. No, it is still 1. Then we don't need to go this inside this if. Then we can print number 1. Then increment, then it becomes number 2. Likewise, we can do, assume that now the x equals to 5, then we can increment this one. Then we can print x, that is 6. Now the outputs will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in this code. Now we have nested iteration. That means inside one iteration, we can have another iteration. Here in this code, we have 2 for loops. That means one inside another one. You can try out this code and the output will be like this, a star pattern. As we print here a star. I hope you have an idea about iterations. So thank you.